People believe they're ambiverts because they're like, well, I feel like there's a part of me that's introverted and a part of me that's extroverted. And the answer is yes, everybody is an ambivert. Ambiversion is a sign of maturity. It's not just a psychological preference. A person who has such a strong preference for introversion or extroversion to a point where they can't do the other side. I'm talking about somebody who won't leave their house or somebody who will not take a minute to go inside their own head. That's actually a sign of a lack of maturity, actually.
Hey, welcome back to the Personality Hacker Podcast. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge. I have a question for you, Joel.
Another one.
What do you mean another one? We just started podcasting.
Oh.
Like we literally just sat down and started podcasting.
Well, fair enough. Ask away.
Although I probably have asked you a question before in our life together. So if that's what you mean, another one.
Yet another one, Antonia. Man, how many are there? Do you ever stop?
You just asked me if I wanted sugar in my tea. How many questions are you going to ask me?
It's endless questions.
Okay. I have a type-related question for the podcast, Joel.
Yes, let's go.
All right. So the question is, why do so many extroverts believe they're introverts?
First of all, is that true?
Uh-huh. It is true.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, it is true that a lot of extroverts believe they're introverts. Yes.
Well, I can tell you what I used to think.
Okay.
And how I've updated my thinking very recently, which is kind of the point of this podcast.
Yeah.
I used to think, well, people have and this is still true, but I think I have more ways of thinking about it. We have more ways that we understand it. People, when they think about extroversion, introversion, it's in the public consciousness. Like everybody, whether they know what it actually means or not, everybody believes they know what it means.
Right.
Like that's, right? 100% of people believe that.
Yeah.
Anywhere in society, whether people know about introversion or extroversion, like what it really is, everyone believes they know what it means.
Right.
And what most people, I believe, have mapped onto introversion, extroversion is that introverts like to be alone by themselves and extroverts like to be around people.
Yes.
And that's basically the general consensus idea on what those two things mean.
Yes.
And I think when people use it, that's like when you're just, people don't know personality type, talk about, oh, that person's an extrovert. What they mean is they're a people person. That's usually what they mean. Or a loud person
gregarious.
In public. They're either loud in public, the life of the party, or they're a people person. And I don't believe that anymore.
Yeah.
That means that.
Yeah.
So that's where I've updated my thinking. So
well, I mean,
I think that's why people mistyped themselves previously.
I don't think you've thought that for a long time either, but I do believe that there's probably, for both of us, been some sort of like latent belief around like that if all other things being equal, an introvert will probably prefer to be alone, and all other things being equal, an extrovert will need to be around people and or in environment. And and I think that's, I mean, there's still truth in that.
Of course.
And if you see lists of introversion, extroversion, and bullets, you're going to see some trends of behavior that are pretty consistent. Not rules, but trends.
Sure.
And of course, a person's life story is also going to very much determine their relationship to this. Because an introvert that was never really allowed to be an introvert and was really pushed into doing a lot of extroverted things might have a much higher tolerance for extroversion, and then vice versa. An introvert that was sort of forced into a lot of, maybe even circumstantially, not even upbringing, but like the circumstances of one's life are overwhelming, and so they need a lot of processing time. An extrovert can look like an introvert that they just don't want to leave the house. So there's trends of behaviors, but the trends are not rules.
That's right. So if you're listening right now or watching, let us know in the comments. Well, two primary things. Are you somebody that you feel doesn't like to be around people, but you know that you're extrovert? Like you know you have extroverted preferences, but you're not necessarily a people person, extrovert. And then the second thing is, like I forget what the second question is.
Well, are you an introvert that likes people?
Yeah, or you? Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Are you an introvert that actually you love being around people, but you definitely know you're an introvert?
Yeah.
But you like people. I think that's just interesting. Before we give more fidelity to this, just where are you at in your representation to yourself around introversion, extroversion, people, not people?
Yeah.
And so this came about, Antonia. I think my thinking was refined from doing exercises during our personality profiler training. It was interesting to watch and I'm not going to tell you what the exercise is, but the extroverted thinking or effectiveness exercise is where this was revealed to me of just how much extroversion can be separated away from people. Because a lot of ETJs, for example, ENTJs and ESTJs will report, no, I'm definitely an introvert. And we're working with them as clients or students or alumni or whatever. And we're like, no, this person leads with extroverted thinking effectiveness. They're definitely an extrovert, but they're not that quote unquote people person extrovert. They're not necessarily out there as the life of the party extrovert. And so they report to themselves and feel more introverted.
Right.
And I think this, as we watched this develop, we started to go, wait a second. Extroversion in a real way, people's lived experiences, not just around people. I mean, this has been years in the making. I'm telling you the results of it. Like we just stumbled on this last week. But it's actually that you can be extroverted in basically 4 different ways. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about that today if we can.
Yeah. The reason why I think this is important is, like you said, it's in the collective unconscious. So people think that they already know. You know, it's like there's and it feels like a very intuitive thing. It feels like introversion and extroversion are very almost archetypal. Mm-hmm. And so they feel like like as soon as you hear the words, you almost feel like you know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so because it feels so archetypal, or it feels so in the collective unconscious, then there's not a lot of questioning around those terms or those definitions. And I would actually argue that different systems have co-opted them to mean slightly different things. I think there are a lot of systems out there that indicate that introversion and extroversion do specifically have to do with our interactions with other people.
Yes.
And so because of that, in some systems, you're not wrong to believe that, right? Like that's how those systems have chosen to use those definitions. But I think there is value in going back to the original Jungian concept, because, you know, Jung was the one, if I'm not mistaken, basically coined the terms. And so because of that, there's value to going back to the etymology of it and trying to figure out what that meant originally.
Yeah.
And then there's I would say in profiling sessions, there are 2 of the dichotomies that surprise people the most when they are quote unquote diagnosed, or they discover their best fit type is different than what they originally believed.
Yeah.
I'd say the number one is when somebody discovers that they are a sensor when they believe they were an intuitive, or they are an intuitive when they believe they were a sensor. Like that's the number one biggest, like, what? No, there's no way, right? There's no way I'm a sensor. There's no way that I'm an intuitive. That's the number one. And I would say it's probably most when somebody has sensory preferences and discovers they're an intuitive, because most of us understand our relationship to our intuition. And so it's shocking to, you know, when we discover it's not our preferred perceiving function. So that's the first one.
I agree with that. I do think that requires somebody to be a little bit more educated to have that experience, what you're talking about, because that's not as in the public consciousness. So someone has to be, they have to understand what sensing or intuition is to be surprised.
Correct. Exactly.
Right? It's not something that's just kind of caught, like loosely floating in their brain. Yeah. Like introversion, extroversion.
Yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, yes, exactly. It's not in the collective unconscious. It's usually because they've, you know, read a little bit of information around, you know, like 16 personalities or Myers-Briggs information or whatever. And it totally makes sense why people resist the idea that they might have sensory preferences, because intuition, first of all, intuition has traditionally been written about by intuitives that are trying to convince everybody that intuition is valuable. Like basically for the last 50 or 60 years. Yeah. And it makes sense that intuition was something that felt for a long time like a marginalized capacity, you know, something that if you have intuitive preferences, even now, in a much more intuitive friendly world, you're going to have people say things like, well, you can't prove that, or how do you know, or push back on patterns, right? And knowingness.
And the 20th century was very industrial.
Very
modernist. And so it's all about the math and putting out little scientists and things that we can reliably know.
Yeah, observable data.
Right, yeah.
Right, things that'll help us win the war against, you know, the Cold War against the Russians or whatever. That's why our school systems are set up the way they are too. It's like, let's defeat the Russians in the Cold War is basically something we never really institutionally let go of. But so there's like there's a bit of, there's a lot of intuitive bias in content around type, particularly Myers-Briggs, because it was written by a bunch of people that were trying to convince everybody that intuition was valuable. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, it was written in these overly romanticized ways. And it would make sense that somebody who has consumed a fair amount of information around type would want to be the thing that sounds cool, and intuition sounds cool. and it's written about or traditionally has been sort of written about in a romanticized way.
Yeah.
So because of that, intuition tends to be the bias, and people who have sensory preferences are often surprised to discover that they have sensory preferences and not intuitive preferences. Not to say that, sensors don't have intuition, they do, and vice versa. Intuitives have sensing as well. So, but it's that I would say that that's the number one shock point when people get profiled and it's a different type than they expected.
I think I was talking to my friend Shin Guy this week, and we were talking, he just completed his work in like systems thinking. So he's got his thesis.
System science.
Thank you. Systems science specifically. And he's got like an application. So I was working with him to develop this systems map of Personality Hacker, actually, and some of our philosophies and some of the things we're doing. So I want to expand upon what you just said around this idea of intuition. I think as we were talking, what I came down to is the reason why intuitives are attracted to Personality Hacker, and the reason why sensors might mistake themselves for intuitives is because it's actually people that feel like they're a misfit in their world. They feel out of place in their world. And some things that we have, like maybe things like on the spectrum or autism or certain like conditions that people can identify with, can explain why they feel like such a misfit.
Yeah.
And one of those things I think people have picked up on is, well, maybe I'm intuitive.
Right.
Like maybe I'm not, maybe I'm not autistic. Maybe I'm not on the spectrum, but maybe I have this intuition that's running that's causing me to be the different. That's why I don't fit in my family.
Maybe it's not neurodivergence. Maybe it's intuition. Right.
That's why I don't fit in my family. That's why my friends think I'm a weirdo.
Correct.
And so people go on that hunt. They find type. They start reading the material. They start resonating with it.
Yes.
Because they're a misfit.
Yes.
Not because they're intuitive.
Right.
And then they're disappointed when they find out, wait, maybe I'm a sensor, because that was the thing that was going to give them permission to be the misfit. Or
explained why they feel like a misfit.
And I'm going to tell you right now, first of all, you have full permission to be a misfit, no matter what your type is. And the other thing is that you do have intuition. It may just be, it's just not your preferred cognitive function or your preferred energy that you tap into. But we all have it, and it might be very important for you. Well, so if you're a sensor, just quickly, if you're a sensor listening, just know you do have intuition. It is real. You are an intuitive in a way. Now, you're not on a binary, but you do have intuition and may be really important for you. So don't neglect it. I think honor it. I think that's really cool. I want to honor those sensors that have that relationship with their intuition.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and also, like you said, there's a lot of reasons we can feel like a misfit.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not we're intuitive or sensory. Actually, that's a really interesting idea, that one of the reasons why a person might cling to feel or believing that they have intuitive preferences is because it answers something for them that if you take that quote unquote answer away, now they're back to floating.
Yeah.
Now they're back to trying to figure out why they're a misfit in their world. And we can be a misfit you could be the only thinker in a feeler family, or the only feeler in a thinker family, or the only judger in a perceiver family, or vice versa, or the only the only introvert in an extroverted family.
Right.
So, and then there's other systems also that come in here, and there's generational, clashes, and there's lots of reasons why we might be misfits. Intuition is not the only one, but for a lot of people, having intuitive preferences is why they can't find a place where they're not a misfit.
That's right.
Right. And so it is an answer, but it's one of many possible answers.
So I think it's positioned as being cool, but I would say that's one big reason. But I think another huge reason is that misfit. In fact, let us know in the comments below this episode. Is it like maybe you are attracted to intuition because of the misfit energy? I just would be curious if somebody's resonating with that idea. Like, that was me, but then I found out I was sensor, but I also have this intuitive part of me, because we all do. But leave in the comments what's coming up for you as we talk about this. Maybe you've got another story to share. I'd love to hear from you and get a conversation around this going.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also important to remember that having either sensory or intuitive preferences is more about how much confidence and certainty you have in this function.
That's right.
Not whether or not you have access to it or even some capacity, right? It's not a descending order of skill. It's a descending order of certainty. And as humans, we are very uncomfortable with the feeling of uncertainty. So we do tend to push away things that make us feel uncertain. And so we have a tendency to have lower skill because we're not clocking as much time in an uncertain place. But there are plenty of people who make peace with uncertainty, integrate these parts of themselves, and then stretch their capacity.
Yeah.
And so there are people who even lead with sensing that have a strong relationship with their intuition, as long as they're willing to have some space for the uncertainty that it makes them feel.
So that's the one misread. And then you said the bigger one, though, or the next one.
Yeah, so back to the point of origin of the conversation. So that's the first one, is the intuitive and sensing. And the second one is discovering, and it is usually in this direction, discovering they have extroverted preferences when they believe they were an introvert. That one also, people, I mean, sometimes you'll pull it out of their cold, dead hands, right? They're just like, no, I'm an introvert. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
And the challenge with that in type theory and understanding it through the lens of type dynamics, I mean, if you're only ever going to like give yourself a 4-letter label, you know, I'm an ESTJ, I'm an INFP. Like if that's as far as you're going to go in the system, it kind of doesn't matter because you're also at that point, you're just playing with it. And that's okay. You're totally allowed to play with it, but it doesn't really mean anything. It's not really going to tell you that much. Maybe it gave you enough of a comfort that, oh, look, I found yet another label and makes me feel good to know what my label is.
I'm a type A personality. I'm a type B personality. Sure. These things can sort of help us sort and understand ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And actually, sometimes we're going through an introverted time period in our life where we have to believe we're an introvert to give ourselves permission to be there, or vice versa. Sometimes we have to believe we're an extrovert because we're in a season of our life that we're exploring that place, and it gives us permission to do that. So if you're just leaving it at the 4, dichotomies, there's really not a lot of harm in getting your type wrong.
Yeah.
Because you're usually just kind of, I mean, you hear it all the time, casual, people who play with type casually are like, well, I used to be this type and now I'm this type. And it's like, well, that's not really how it works, but sure, explore away, right? Find different aspects of yourself through those 4 letters.
Well, when you don't have the cognitive map, you have to rely on swapping out the labels.
Correct.
Because that's the game you're playing. The moment you take that label, and we do that through the car model here at Personality Hacker, and we drive it down into the 4 parts of your mind, the 4 passengers of the car, driver, co-pilot, 10-year-old, 3-year-old. Now we have a cognitive map.
Yeah.
Now you have much more fidelity onto how you're actually operating.
And it means more.
Yeah.
Right. Getting your type accurate when you go down to the cognition, now there's a little bit more weight to it because the map of your mind, the cognitive function map of your mind, gives you almost a prescriptive order of what are the kinds of things that are healthy for you and your type based on that map, where understanding the positions, understanding what's going on for you starts to mean more. It starts to actually, like, accuracy is a little bit more important.
So if you know your car model for your personality type, I want to point out something here. If you look at your car model, you'll notice that 2 of those cognitive functions inside your car model will have introverted attitudes, meaning they're going to both be introverted functions. And 2 of those functions in your car model are going to be extroverted attitudes, meaning they're going to be extroverted functions. Mm-hmm. So when you're being an extrovert, let's say your driver is extroverted, that means you're an extrovert. If your driver is an introvert, that means you're an introvert, like on the 4-letter code. I'm going really fast, so you might want to consult your car model for your type. If you go to personalityhacker.com/car model, you can find more information about that. We're also releasing videos around these and getting these out too. But if you look at that, there's 2 parts of you in your car model that are extroverted. So let's say you're those 2 parts of you, which ones are coming out in an extroverted space? And are both of those things people, person orientated? We've already talked about the fact that extroversion isn't just about people. So that's interesting that already, if you go to the cognitive map, you're not just an extrovert. You have 2 primary ways that you're an extrovert, which I think is interesting.
Yeah. This is actually why people think they're ambiverts.
Yes.
People believe they're ambiverts because they're like, well, I feel like there's a part of me that's introverted and a part of me that's extroverted. And the answer is yes, that's true. You are an ambivert.
We all are.
That's right. As is everyone. Everybody is an ambivert. And so
that's a question that came up at the label level.
Correct.
Just the 4 letters, introversion, extroversion. Well, I don't feel like a full extrovert or a full introvert. I feel like a little bit of both. But if you just have the label of the 4-letter code, you have no idea what to do with that. So you create yet a new category called ambivert. We did an entire podcast on this.
Right.
Instead of going into the cognitive map and seeing why you feel that way, it makes sense. They create yet another label to add to this mix of an ambivert, which doesn't really help anything because we're just adding more labels now. Or
it's just a way to go, and we're also, all of us are also ambiverts. Yeah. So, and really introversion or extroversion as a strong preference is more about how married you are to your driver function. That's really what it is. It's like, if I really don't want to get out of my driver function, either direction, like I just want to stay there, I just want to stay in that attitude, then you're going to have a strong preference for one or the other. You can really see somebody's maturity though weirdly enough, the more of an ambivert you are, the more it is communicating psychological health, because that means you're getting into your co-pilot more. And your co-pilot is what rounds us out. It helps us become balanced. It also is an indication of an integrated 3-year-old or inferior function. Integration of that is also the opposite attitude. Yeah. So when we have strong preferences for introversion, extroversion, and I don't mean like somebody who's, like really needs their alone time as an introvert, or somebody who's the life of the party as an extrovert. I'm not talking about that being a sign of a lack of psychological health. I'm talking about somebody who won't leave their house.
Yeah.
Or somebody who will not take a minute to go inside their own head.
Stop talking.
That's right. Exactly.
Stop outputting.
Stop outputting. That's right. So a person who has such a strong preference for introversion or extroversion to a point where they can't do the other side, that's actually a sign of a lack of maturity, actually. So ambiversion is a sign of maturity. It's not just a psychological preference.
I would love to hear in the comments, do you feel very strongly one side or the other? Do you feel like the most uber extrovert ever? You can barely be introverted. You're constantly out and moving and engaging. Or do you feel the opposite? Do you feel like you're an introvert? You'll get on a Zoom call, but you won't even turn on your camera. That's how introverted you are. Like you won't even go out of your house. You won't turn on, like you're that much introverted.
Who's going to own that? I just said it was a sign of a lack of maturity.
Well, then everybody's going to answer the middle one, which I'm going to ask next. Do you feel like a little bit of both?
Yeah.
And of course, everybody's going to answer that because
I just said that. They were like, oh no, Antonia's going to judge me.
It would take a rare person to be able to be willing to say something that you just made so much judgment around.
Yeah. Well, I'll say when I was younger, I had such a strong preference for extroversion that I was not psychologically healthy.
Yeah.
There was definitely time periods in my life, and still now, sometimes I don't know if I go that direction. I would say sometimes I get kind of stuck in my introversion now, but.
Well, I think what it looks like for you and me is the lack of the willingness to sit down and write the script.
Yeah.
Like we just like to jump on a podcast or a video without the introverted prep time.
Yes.
That's usually how it shows up for us.
For sure.
And we just we don't want to have to take the time to be introverted to plan.
Yes.
We like the plan to develop in real time, but we've learned, boy, we get better results when we take a little bit of time.
Just a minute or two.
And make the plan first. It's been something hard won in our lives.
That's true. Yeah.
But I would love to have you leave in the comments. Do you feel like an ambivert? Do you understand these two parts of yourself? Do you kind of see, I'm introvert in these contexts, and extrovert in this context? Yeah. And then I would love to introduce the idea, if we can keep going on this idea of what it means.
What it actually means for introversion, extroversion. Yeah, I definitely want you to launch into that. Just as a nod, because I said it's good to have a Jungian perspective as well, to go back to the source material.
Yeah.
I think I want to smuggle in right now a reference back to what Jung was talking about. And then I think we should go into kind of almost like a contemporary way of looking at it. Because sometimes Jung's work is not exactly accessible and it can be difficult to understand. And so it's nice to be able to put like modernized language to it and go, okay, what does it actually look like in the wild? So Jung called introversion and extroversion a psychological orientation, meaning that introversion was pointed inside of ourselves and extroversion was pointed outside of ourselves. And I always think of that as like, where does my skin and my space cushion end? So when you're driving, there's this thing called a space cushion that they talk about in a car. And when you're being instructed as a teenager, they go, make sure you have a sufficient enough space cushion. And that's effectively like an amount of space around your vehicle that it's like the no-go zone. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to get so close to a car that they're in your quote unquote space cushion. Do you remember this?
I do. Okay. I was just thinking, you know what was happening for me. I'm imagining somebody like 100 years from now listening to this with a new definition of what space cushion means.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have like colonies on Mars and stuff. And it'll be like,
I'm sitting on
space cushion. That's what they used to call this.
Sitting on my space cushion.
That's what I immediately thought of.
Okay. Well,
but yeah, I know what you mean. They call it overdriving headlights. Like at night, you don't want to drive so fast that you can't see what's in front of you to have the time to stop.
That's right.
A car slams on its brakes, you'd be able to stop.
Yeah, you want enough of a space cushion that you're
space around you. Yes.
Okay, so back in the old timey days, back in 2025, or maybe they don't even call them space cushions anymore. Back in the decrepit old 1990s, when I learned to drive, they called it a space cushion. So I think of introversion as anything in like inside of myself and in my space cushion. Right? Like anything that's self-orientated to the internal zone.
Yeah.
And then the extroversions, the psychological orientation is pointed outward past my space cushion. Anything that's like not what I still claim as part of my personal territory or terrain. And so that's really what Jung was talking about. So when he married them, to these cognitive functions, He was effectively saying there are 4 functions, and if you split these 4 functions into 2 different orientations, then you end up with 8. Some of the functions have an introverted, internalized orientation where they're the concept, but then pointed internally on the self. And then the extroverted attitude is that concept, but pointed towards our interfacing with the outside world. So that's really what Jung was talking about with introversion, extroversion. And if you notice, it doesn't say people.
Yeah.
It says psychological orientation, pointed inward or pointed outward. And that's why he said introversion, right? Pointed, a psychological orientation pointed internally. And extraversion, not extro, by the way. He said extroversion was bad Latin. So he called it extraversion.
With an A.
That's right, with an A. So it's externalized, right? Something outside of ourselves. And that's important to understand that Jung was not talking about being social. He was talking about a direction that something is pointed. And so when we in the collective unconscious or in the zeitgeist think that we know what introversion, extroversion is, we're never talking about it pointed inward or pointed outward. We're talking about behaviors. Do I want to be alone or do I want to be with people? And so it's good to know that that was not the original intent of the concept.
So in aviation, when we talk about airplanes and you talk about the orientation of an airplane flying, if it's in an ascent and pointed upward or a descent pointed downward, that's technically called an attitude. Mm-hmm. It's attitudinal. It meaning the direction the airplane, when they say what attitude is the airplane, it's pointed upward or pointed downward. Mm-hmm. It's directional and positional. Right. And so what you're saying is Jung used the words in their proper meaning. An attitude isn't a grudge I hold or a state or a mood I'm in. Right. That's how we've used it in modern terms. But an attitude means a pointed direction. It's directional. Correct. And there's a lot to this directionality, like you said. And this came about during our personality profiler training for years. We just did our 15th event, like recently, our 15th workshop. High five. A lot of work for 2 EPs. We did it though. We've been doing this. I mean, we've been running live events in this since 2018, and we're doing profiler training before that. Actually, technically since 2015. That's right. Yeah. Well, small events. Small events in 2015, 2016, but like the big ones starting in 2018. The full program's been running since 2010. We started those events, 2015, you're right. At the events, we started to do these embodiment exercises. We also set up people with rapport building at the beginning of the week in the way to build 2 types of rapport with each other, like in a profiling session or a conversation. Energetic rapport, which is the vibe between people, the energetic or emotional vibe, and also data rapport, the way to pass information back and forth, like key information. You have to understand what you're saying. So we have techniques for both of these channels of rapport. So if you watch let's say an EFJ working with somebody, they build this rapport, that energetic rapport channel. We were watching extroverted feeling users, especially with dominant extroverted feeling, almost effortlessly creating rapport with people in the room naturally. It was really wonderful to watch them do this and get into a dynamic. Like they were able to create this not all EFJs, but almost everyone that came. I mean, it's like 99% of them just effortlessly create energetic rapport. Yeah, just if you just happened upon us, by the way, I just want to give a nod to anybody who is just curious about introversion, extroversion, have found themselves here and doesn't know a lot about Jungian cognitive functions. We're going to be talking about them right now. Joel just used one of those functions, extroverted feeling. We call it harmony. Yeah, thank you. And head over to the CAR model as well to talk about what those 8 Jungian functions are, because like we said before, if you really want to get serious about all of this, you have to go to the function level. Yeah. If you want to just talk about introversion, extroversion, or like the 4-letter code in Myers-Briggs or 16 personalities or whatever, you don't have to know functions. And you're just kind of playing around with it at that point. This is the layer deeper. If you go the layer deeper, that's the real meat of everything. That's actually where things happen. Right? Everything else is a little bit of there's value to the 4 letters. I don't want to throw shade and say that there's not value to it. There's plenty of value to it. There's lots that can be communicated in those 16 types. Yeah. But there's a limit to it. There is a limit to how much it can tell you. You get to the functions, I have not yet hit a limit in 15 years. I'll say it here. Just still drilling down. I've been saying it. It's kind of like going to New York City. The label of New York City is helpful. You know which city you're in. Mm-hmm. The street labels, I'm comparing these to the 4-letter code of your type. Mm-hmm. The street labels are helpful. I'm on Broadway. I'm on 5th Avenue, whatever. Yep. Labels can be useful, but you can't really navigate New York without a map.
Right.
You'll pull one up on your phone. You'll be able to see the streets, the subway lines, all the places to go.
Yeah.
And so all you're talking about, Antonia, is there's usefulness to the label level, but when you get to the mapping level, where we're going to map your cognition, how your mind actually works, there's so much more value there because you can actually navigate space and terrain and situations.
And it helps us map who we are, which is endless territory. So anyway, I didn't mean to throw you off your
well, the roles are reversed. I used to do this in the olden days to you, but now you're doing it this way.
Now I'm doing it. See, I bought in. I bought into the whole, like, let's pause for a minute in case we have new listeners to go, hey, there's a lot here. Go check it out.
So there's an entire cognitive map running for EFJs, and that means that their driver or dominant cognitive functions, extroverted, feeling, or harmony. This is the best way they move through the world. And that it means that they're really good at building rapport with other people, because what we know about harmony is it kind of gets in rapport with other people really well.
Yeah.
It just naturally falls into this rapport frame.
Yeah.
So as we're looking at this and we're talking about it and we're observing, the question arises, well, if extroverted feeling gets into rapport with people, could we take the idea of rapport, the concept of rapport, getting into rapport with something energetically? Here, an extroverted feeling user, a harmony user, is doing with a person. Could I be in rapport with ideas? Question mark. And what would that mean and look like? And then the question is, and could I be in rapport with my environment, my physical environment? And what would that look like? And could I be in rapport with resource projects, my to-do list, my calendar, and getting things done in the world? And what would that look like?
Right.
And it basically draws this connection to, well, yes, there is rapport with those different channels. In fact, not only are those existing, those seem to map almost one-to-one with the 4 extroverted cognitive functions: rapport with people, extroverted feeling or harmony; rapport with projects, resource, results, extroverted thinking or effectiveness, used by all TJs in the Myers-Briggs system.
Right.
Rapport with my environment, my sensory and physical environmental space. Well, that would be extroverted sensing or sensation. That's used by all SPs in the Myers-Briggs system as a strength.
Yeah.
Or I could be in rapport with ideas, ideation, whiteboard sessions, thoughts, imaginations. I could be in rapport with this ideas flying back and forth, and we could map that to extroverted intuition or exploration. And so now we have a heuristic or a framework to look at the 4 extroverted cognitive functions as ways of being in rapport with the frequencies or channels they represent into the world.
Right.
And this just I think opens up someone's perception of, like, understanding extraversion and introversion. And we can talk about introversion on another episode. I think we should actually go into those. We
already have. I'm going to hearken to it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
But those 4 extroverted processes, it starts now go, oh, it's not just about being a people person, is it?
Yeah.
That's why an extroverted thinking effectiveness user, an ETJ, let's say an ENTJ, can be very extroverted without even talking to a person.
Yeah.
Right? They're maybe doing their plans and their projects, and they're building something. They're creating something in the world with resource and managing an output out here.
Yeah.
And they could be in rapport with that process and not talk to another human soul, but be in an extroverted space.
Yep.
So now our idea of extroversion blows wide open. It's not just about being a people person.
Right. And so then it increases the amount of accuracy that people have around seeing how they're wired.
This helps our profiler training students.
Yeah, for sure. So we talked about introversion. What episode was it? Was it the one when we talked about Jungian complexes? Like what a complex is? I think we did one on, like, complexes and archetypes not that long ago, maybe last year, sometime this year. And I think if you look up complexes and archetypes, you'll find the episode. But in that episode, we discussed how we think the underlying definition of introversion is processing. Because when you go inside of yourself, what are you doing? Are you doing a lot of active activity inside, or are you processing something? Have you scooped something up from the outside world and now you're ruminating on it, understanding its meaning, understanding its purpose, trying to basically metabolize the content, figure out what you're going to keep, what you're going to get rid of, right? That's the whole point of going inside, is to process. And we talked about how the different functions when you go inside are doing different kinds of processing. I think the reason why we mentioned it in the episode about complexes is because a complex is, a Jungian complex is defined as a topic that is represented by some sort of image or archetype and that image or archetype at the center is surrounded by organized, unprocessed material. And so in order to get a complex to stop kind of controlling you and creating triggers is identify the complex, identify the topic, identify the image or the archetype, and then identify the unprocessed material that is trying to get your attention.
Yes.
And so if you can see introversion as processing, then you take those same 4 categories, the feeling, the thinking, the sensing, and the intuition, and go, which thing got dropped mid-process?
Yeah.
Which part of myself is still trying to get my attention to go finish the processing of it and then relieve the intensity or the triggering of the complex?
Yes.
Right? It's like, is it my experience that I need to process? I just need to go back and review it and accept it. Well, that'd be introverted sensing.
Yeah.
Is it my feelings that I need to process? Introverted feeling or authenticity. Is it the thoughts and beliefs I have around it? Introverted thinking or accuracy? Or is it the patterns I created and the meaning I created around it of introverted intuition or perspectives? Yeah. And if you can identify what the unprocessed material is, you can finish the process, and then the complex is no longer gripping you.
That's right. By the way, just if you're following along, this is the point of why we're doing what we're doing here. This is the point. So most people start off with personality types as those labels, those 4-letter codes, or like, DISC or Big Five or Myers-Briggs. They're just looking for labels to describe behavior. And often that can be helpful. And then the next level down, and this is what most of our career has been built on so far, Antonia, is helping people map their cognition and know, okay, which part of me is showing up in which context. And a lot of our profiler training is helping us spot that to help people arrive at their best fit type. So they have the type map. They've got the entire map of their cognition, including their shadow functions, which unlocks the next layer, which is the whole point of all of this, right? To understand who you are in finding these complexes that run inside of these frequencies and these cognitive functions,
right,
to be able to address them directly. Like that's the point of this work, is it gives us the ability to go inside with a map and actually, this is Jungian, deal with the things that we're dealing with, like overcome them or process through them or like fix them in a way.
It's removing all the things that aren't us.
That's right.
That's how I see it. I see the whole Michelangelo said that when he was sculpting David, he wasn't trying to find David in the marble. He was removing all of the marble that wasn't David.
Yes.
And so when you do this work and do it well, what you're looking for is everything that got kind of attached to you that actually isn't you, and doing full processing. Like complexes are usually unprocessed material because we're holding on to things that aren't, like, they were never ours to begin with.
Yeah.
And so being able to go, I mean, type helps because it goes, oh, you mean that's an intrinsic part of who I am?
Yeah.
Well, I'll keep that. Yeah. Oh, you mean that was just something I borrowed or adopted or outsourced to somebody else and it's never really me? I'm going to let that go.
Yeah.
And we do enough of that, and then all of a sudden we're not carrying the weight of all this not me material, right? Yeah. And then we feel freer and lighter and more on our purpose and our path, and like, oh, this is who I was supposed to be the whole time.
Yep.
But I had all these chunks of marble on me that weren't me to begin with. Yeah. So we defined introversion in that podcast around complexes as processing, right? And that's what we're doing. Anytime we're going inside, we're processing. And introverts, by definition, have a preference for processing. That's what they like to do. They like to process more. How do we process? Usually by ourselves, right? Usually when somebody interrupts our processing, we're like, oh, hey, I was like doing a thing, right? And you just disrupted me. So the reason why introversion becomes, it becomes synonymous, whether or not it is, but it becomes synonymous with not wanting to be around people, is actually introversion is processing, and it's hard to process when you're around other people.
Yeah.
But not always. Introverted feeling or authenticity, when it's hearing somebody tell a story, its brain lights up because it's processing its own experience while it's hearing somebody else tell a story.
Yeah.
It's trying to figure out itself in comparison to how somebody else experienced the same thing or something similar. And so introverted feeling or authenticity processes better in some ways when it's an audience to somebody else's biography. And so it doesn't always process the best by itself. Sometimes it processes better when it's around another person, if that person is telling a story that's relevant to the person using the function's story themselves.
But the introversion will be focused on the self and its experience while it's listening.
Exactly.
So the introverted feeling or authenticity listening, it's not necessarily connected with the person. The reference is the self. So it's an introverted process. They're using the other person's as material to do it this way.
Yep.
In a way.
Exactly. And so that's fascinating, right? It's like in some ways, I mean, not to say that somebody who has a preference for introverted feeling or authenticity is always going to be around people.
Yeah.
And in fact, when the person, while they're listening to a story, when they get to a place of a decision point for what it means to them, they actually stop listening to the person's story. And so they basically, what I hear is they completed the process. They completed the process, and now the story's not as interesting, right? This extroverted, seemingly extroverted experience.
So what you just did, by the way, you just steered the conversation. For some reason, a lot of introverted feeling authenticity people are going to resonate with what you said, and that's going to be most of the comments are going to be filled by that.
Oh, yeah.
What you just said around the distinctions and the questions and the pushback on that, which is good. If you are an introverted feeling person, love to hear from you on that. That's one specific example. There's probably others as well. I also have another question that's coming up for me as we talk, and I know some Jungians feel this way.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have time to unpack this. So this might be something I'm going to ask. We have to undo or unpack on a different episode.
Okay. Let's tag.
But if introversion is processing, that means all us extroverts are massively mentally ill because we're not spending time processing the material.
Yeah.
We're out in the world. The more extroverted we are, the more mentally ill we are. I know I'm not saying that is true. I'm saying that's a hypothesis of a question.
Yeah.
That the healthiest people around us would be the introverts, right? They're all nodding their heads right now. Leave in the comments you are. They're the healthiest because they're in there processing all this material all the time. They go out in the world, they get just enough to process. They come back and they're constantly processing material. They're the healthiest people. Us extroverts, if we take the time to process, can be healthy. I'm being hyperbolic and silly on purpose.
Yeah.
I don't think that's how it works, but somebody could draw that connection based on how we're talking right now.
Right.
I would draw that connection if I was listening.
Well, just because you're processing doesn't mean you're processing the right material. Just like in the same way that an extrovert might be doing things in the outside world, are they doing the right things? It's like there's taking action and there's taking right action.
Yeah.
And there's processing, and then there's processing the right things. I mean, there's plenty of people with introverted preferences that won't touch with a 10-foot pole things they should be processing that just feel really uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
So just because you're going inward and processing, I mean, you could be spending all your time like reading, I don't know, like reading fantasy novels, right? And you're processing like this world building inside of you. But is that your psychologically healthy work? There's nothing wrong with reading fantasy, but it's like if you're doing it as a distraction from the other stuff inside of you that needs attention, you're not psychologically healthy at that point. You're still distracting yourself. You're just doing it with introverted activities. Yeah. So it's not to say that introverts are always on top of all of their processing. It's to say that we need to finish our unprocessed material regardless of whether or not we're an introvert or an extrovert.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's also a lot of healthy things that come from extraversion. So let's move on to our definition of extraversion.
Yeah, let's do it.
Per what you were talking about.
This idea of rapport.
Which is rapport. That's right.
So being in rapport with these 4 different energies of life.
That's right.
Right? Ideas, direct experience or environment, projects, resource, and getting something done, outputting, accomplishments, and then people, like actual human-to-human connection.
Right.
We could see the 4 extroverted cognitive functions directly connecting to those ideas.
Right. And so then of course it begs the question, what's rapport? And rapport, when you see rapport with a person, rapport is I'm sending a signal out and then the person is receiving the signal and pinging it back. And so rapport with another person is I'm sending energy your way, you're sending energy back. I'm sending energy your way, you're sending energy back. And so rapport is when we get in kind of almost like you can be in rapport with more than one person, but it's easiest to experience it or, understand how it works by being in rapport with one person and creating almost like a closed circuit situation. Right. Yeah. And the more rapport we have with another person, the more I guess satisfying it is to send them energy and have them send energy back, the more we like that person and we want to be in their energy. Now you can be in rapport in a negative way too. You can be in a fight. And a fight, weirdly enough, is a form of rapport because now you're in a closed circuit situation with that person. It just happens to be negative, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why couples fight. They fight to get into rapport with each other. Yeah. It's like a form of intimacy, even though it doesn't feel good and it's not necessarily a positive thing.
Yeah.
So if that's rapport and we can see it best with a person, and an extroverted feeling or harmony is the one that is seeking opportunities of rapport with people. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that that they're doing it on a one-to-one. They can be doing it with groups. They can be doing it by setting up a system in behalf of, say, their family. Now, if you're cleaning your home or you're setting up your systems so that your family will will have an easier time of it. In some ways, you're in rapport with them at that moment, even if they're not around.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's like you're doing things in their behalf. You're staying in rapport with them and making it so that when they come around, they're going to be in a better space so that you can engage with them in a better way and your rapport is higher quality and less conflict.
Yeah.
So it can be, it can also be activities that support rapport. Does that make sense?
And I think this is very much, it's not known in technical, like people couldn't describe this the way you're doing it. But I think everyone has a sense of this because this is how we experience humans. Like there's almost everybody has a person they're in rapport with in their life, whether they're an extroverted feeling user or not. We have people rapport. We're pulling on that part of ourselves, whether that's our preferred function. And we're all doing it. We're a social, we're social creatures.
Right.
Humans are very social. So we all have an experience of this. And I think we understand it. That's why we've, I think, mapped extroversion onto this channel.
Right, because it's so obvious.
It's so obvious.
But now let's take that same principle and apply it to, say, extroverted thinking or effectiveness, which is rapport, but not necessarily with people. It's with, like you said, projects. And I don't like to use the word impact because a lot of people like to have impact. But maybe I could say it with, like accomplishment. It's a rapport with wanting to not just close a loop,
have a result.
Have a result. That's right. It's
Results.
Rapport with results. Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you want to stay in rapport, just like with a person, you send a ping back out and then you're looking for something that's a satisfying return. For extroverted thinking or effectiveness, if they're trying to create a result, and of course they have to do it in the real world, and the real world experiences a timeline, and the timeline requires, certain resources to be managed at certain moments in the timeline in order to get a result done.
That's right.
Then everything that is allowing that function to get closer and closer to result is a very satisfying thing to pour energy into. And because it's satisfying, they're getting energy back. Right? It's like a ping. It's a ping to resource management, and then the resource management gives them a ping back. They get energy back by it being successful.
That's right.
That's why mile markers are so important, because mile markers are a moment when they can get rapport back. Right? They can get energy back from the thing that they're trying to create. And so the rapport isn't necessarily with a person. It's with that series of experiences, that series of, setting things up to make it so that the final result is as satisfying as possible. And so the reason why ETJs sometimes believe they're introverts is they can get to that end game without a human being anywhere close.
Yes.
Right? They can get those mile markers and benchmarks all by themselves. They can manage that resource by themselves. They can do all of those things by themselves and still get that satisfying result.
No, you just said something that generated thoughts in my head that I think the higher up this is as a function, for whatever function you're using, you're able to set the rapport down and pick it up very quickly. Because I'm thinking about Dan. So my friend Dan, your ex-husband Dan, I call him my ex-husband-in-law, always freaks people out when we're out in public. Like, what does that even mean? So Dan has INFP preferences.
He's been on the podcast many times.
When he's working on a project, because I've seen him actually in projects, right? He will be like in our basement working on an extroverted thinking effectiveness style project, which is his 3-year-old or inferior process. It's almost like he, quote unquote, like stays on his feet metaphorically, but also literally, and keeps in the rapport. Yeah. Because he knows if he loses it, it's almost like really he's going to have to fight to get it back. So when he's there, you can almost see him staying in this energy because he doesn't lead with this. This is his little inferior 3-year-old, tons of uncertainty. And I have it as my 10-year-old, and I'm noticing as you're talking about this as a lead, I kind of do the similar thing. I don't want to stop. If I stop, I'll lose the energy of that rapport. I'll almost get disconnected from the project. And the next day, it's like hard to find it again for me. Right. I like, it takes a while to get back into it. Yeah. And I wonder if this holds true for all of them. I haven't mapped this totally. This is coming up for me as you talk. Yeah. Like a version of social awkwardness, but it's not social awkwardness, it's project awkwardness. Because I'm realizing that we have to go and get in rapport, but some of it's performative, like a literal performer who's introverted. Let's talk about maybe they're a ISFP and they're a performer. They get up and they in this performance place in their environment and putting something out. We could say that person's in rapport with the environment, but through performance, not necessarily just riding a bike fast or something extroverted sensing or sensation in that way. Yeah. But it's like in a performative way, even though there might be an introvert off the stage. Right. And so this is another form of rapport, which is maybe environmental, situational. Yes. It's in the single moment right here with the actual physical environment around me, taking my cues from that environment and being responsive to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that we're moving on to extroverted sensing or sensation.
No, please keep going with thinking. I just
have one more thing to say about extrovert thinking or effectiveness.
Please.
Where people come in is when the result is impossible to create as a single unit.
Well, meaning the people are a resource too.
Correct.
They literally call them human resources in businesses.
Correct. Now, that's not to say that TJ types only see people as resources. It's very important for us to make that distinction.
Agreed.
That extroverted thinking as a function will bring other people in. It'll be in rapport with other people if those people are a part of the project.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so, in fact, actually, we tell TJs a lot, it's like, if you want to create intimacy with other people, get into projects with them, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to now be in rapport with them because they're in the channel of the energy that you understand.
Yes.
But yes. And so other people come in when they are required to get the result, to stay in the energy or rapport with the result.
That's
so
right.
I just wanted to make that comment. Moving over though into extroverted sensing or sensation, like you just mentioned, that concept of rapport with the moment or your environment, I think is a big deal because I think there's kind of a misunderstanding, and I had this for a long time myself, that extroverted sensing or sensation was just about doing things that satisfy the body, right? Like, adrenaline fueled activities or, like things that make you feel really present or, like meditation or whatever. But actually it's being in such rapport with the environment that you are taking really subtle cues about what's the next most satisfying activity.
Well, and you become in rapport with the tools around you, like the snowboard you're sitting on or the art you're creating or the performance you're in. You almost, I think the extroverted sensing, now this is not one of my preferred functions, so it's hard to have the experience of this.
Right.
Well, I've observed other people, I think our daughter has this. It's almost a merging with the environment. It's a merging of you and the environment so closely.
Yes.
It's hard to know where it separates. In other words, have you seen these? I mean, I hate to reduce extroverted sensing down to just athleticism or the abilities that people can do, but just the amount of rapport, someone like on a BMX bike that's doing like a backflip and twists or some kind of a stunt, the amount of rapport, like the atoms in the air and the bike that they're on, they have to almost be present to all of it at the same time in real time.
Yeah.
And just almost shut the brain off and just be present to the experience itself.
Yeah.
I watch it. It's like, it's magic to me.
Yeah. There's
like,
so much
crap.
rapport. It's almost a blurring of boundaries. You see this in people, going back to the control of extroverted feeling and rapport with people. If a person gets enough rapport with another person, it's hard to remember where the boundary lines are. Right. And extroverted feeling or harmony users say this all the time. They're like, I have a hard time with boundaries. Right. And it's because you get in such rapport with everybody around you. You almost feel like they're a part of you and you're a part of them.
Yeah.
And I would say this happens with extroverted thinking or effectiveness too. It's what we call role person merger.
You're right.
Right. You get in so much rapport with the results you're trying to create and
the
you start
institution
to,
or project you're in.
Yeah. You start to think that that's your identity. And
Yes.
I would say with extroverted sensing or sensation, you get in such rapport with the environment that it feels like it's a part, like instruments feel like a part of you. But you also feel like you're being led through it too, right? Like it's what's the noise I'm hearing over there? Is that interesting? And then you send a ping over to whatever captured your attention, and now you're heading over there. And if it gives a satisfying ping back, you're like, okay, this is what I'm doing now. But if it doesn't give a satisfying ping back, then you go, okay, well, what else is interesting? So it's following the environment and being in such rapport with it that you're looking for satisfying ping backs, basically.
Yeah.
And so, and you start to feel like it's you, right? You start to feel like, I don't know, I just do a thing. I just perform. I don't know how I'm doing it. Right? I'm just getting on stage and I'm just performing, or I'm just singing, or I'm just playing this instrument, or I'm just having a good time, or I'm just sitting with my friends on the beach.
Yeah, or I'm very present to the moment.
Or I'm just really present to the moment. I can't really explain it beyond that. But really what it is it's that ping back, and you're looking for satisfying pings. Just like with a person, you're looking for people who give you a really satisfying ping back.
Yeah.
You want to stay in rapport with them. You want them to be your BFF now. Extroverted sensing or sensation is doing that with the environment.
Yeah.
It's looking for really satisfying pingbacks to be BFFs with the moment, basically. Yeah.
And then I think extroverted intuition or exploration. Now it's both of our drivers, Antonia. ENTP preferences for you, ENFP preferences for me. So we both use this. We call it exploration. It's intuitive. And I think this podcast is a great example of this. Mm-hmm. Often we'll start off a little slow. We'll kind of start rapport. And then you'll see us throughout an episode, the rapport starts to escalate.
Yeah, we start finding our way.
You ping an idea. All of a sudden, I get an idea off of that. I ping it back to you. You get another idea.
Yeah.
And I actually have more thoughts and more ideas now than when we talked about starting the show.
Yeah. In fact, one of the reasons why it goes long is because it takes a minute for us to get there. But once we're there, we're like, oh, I could be talking about this for like 4 or 5 hours.
But it takes a moment to find the way. And I think that's a really interesting, we're in rapport with ideas. And the more we stay in that rapport, it starts to hum and we're now clicks.
Correct.
It's like clicks in and now the ideas come. Have you ever gone to like an improv show where you have performers that didn't know the script? They were just on stage. They're yes-anding each other. I think that's an example of ideation in rapport. Like somebody's creating a moment, a scene, and you can almost see the characters feeding off each other. The sum is greater than the parts because the entire ideation is all this giant, I don't know, energy working together to create this really interesting experience of performance.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what brainstorming is actually.
Yeah.
When you're in a brainstorming session.
A good one.
A good one.
A blue sky one that actually is designed well.
Right. Exactly. You can kind of always tell the extroverted intuition or exploration users because they're like, by the end, they're just humming, right? Yeah. They're just like in such rapport with the ideas and the ideas are coming so quickly. It's like, oh, that thing. Oh, that thing. Oh, yeah. And then we could do this. Oh, yeah, totally. Right. And it's sending out pings to ideas and getting satisfying pings back.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that all the ideas are good, but they probably actually are not too bad because if it wasn't a satisfying ping back, you would reject it.
That's right.
You go, that one was not satisfying. So let's go to one that is satisfying.
That's right.
And usually it's a better, higher quality idea that satisfies.
So now if you were to look at me in a situation, let's say you were a personality profiler, you went through our training and you're going to ask me questions or you're going to observe me in a situation of some sort. And you're going to determine my best fit type. You might look at the type of extraversion that I get into rapport with, but the challenge is going to be, it's going to be complex to spot it because I've got a lot of ideas running. I know I do. I'm in rapport with ideas, but I'm also in rapport with making those ideas real and building projects out of them.
Yeah.
And so if you were just to have a conversation with me, and in fact, I have a lot of ego baked into that part of me that can take the ideas because the ideas are easy. That's my driver. I can do that all day. It doesn't cost anything to me hardly. Yeah. Super easy. So I don't value that as much. I almost devalue it in my own personality. By the way, we all do this. We all devalue our driver to some degree because we're like, oh, everybody can do that, right? That's easy. But that 10-year-old, we have so much uncertainty that we often will posit it. And so every extrovert's going to struggle with what I struggle with is kind of extrovertedly getting in rapport and then showcasing that rapport. So if you were to sit down with me as a personality profiler or observe me, you're going to see me try to prove myself in that 10-year-old channel all the time. You might get a false read on me. If you don't know any better, you might think I'm in rapport with projects and getting results. You may not see the ideation. You might skip all past it and assume maybe I'm an ETJ. Now, if you spend enough time with me, I think you'd know I wasn't.
If you marry you.
But in a conversation.
If a person were to marry you, they would know that it's not.
If you were to watch a video of me in a situation where I'm demonstrating that or I'm reporting that, and I'm really trying to get you to see this and convince you of this, you might get a false read. And that's what's so complex about extraversion is that I'm not just an extrovert on one channel. In fact, I actually am a very people person, but often it's to serve a project or a result. It's not just to go hang out with people. I don't actually like to just go hang out with people for its own sake. Yeah. It's always to an end result. So you also might get a false read. I'm very people focused that why am I hanging out with people? Yeah. And I think this is really interesting because it's not just, oh, that's the behavior, extrovert behavior tied to this personality type or this cognitive function. We're done. It's a lot more complex than that. And we all show up with multiple aspects of our extraversion coming out or our introversion going in at all moments. Yeah. And is the experience you're having pulling it out of you? Yeah. I have one more thing to say about extroverted intuition or exploration. I know we're wrapping up. I always feel like I'm like, oh, but I had one more thing to say. So just to close the loop on extroverted intuition or exploration as rapport with ideas, another piece of this, and this is something I'm trying to infuse more and more into our content because I think it's something that I was experiencing it, but I didn't name it even inside of myself. And so I just feel like it's probably good to do that. It's not just rapport with ideas. It's also rapport with the next right action. And so I call it what's the next lily pad?
extroverted intuition. Intuition is like this concept of of direction, right? Like what direction, I don't know what the future holds, but I'm going to run a simulation, or I'm going to try to figure out what the future holds. And I'm going to be, in some ways, I'm either going to simulate it. That's introverted intuition. I'm going to simulate it and head towards it. Or what is extroverted intuition doing? Is it directionless?
Yeah.
And the answer is it's actually not directionless. It's just attuned to the next right step in the direction. And so because of that, it's also rapport with direction, right? But and so as opposed to seeing a vision in direction, it's being in rapport with direction. And one of the reasons why it looks like it's scattered all over the place is that most people who use this function are not trained to listen to it. They're not trained to hear it and go, that one, that's the next one. And so to compensate for that, we open up all the possibilities.
Well, they say what if instead of what's next.
Correct. Exactly.
Right?
What if? Because what if is a part of it, but it's the earliest part of the process.
Generates the content to then say what next?
But what's next?
Not what if all these, but what next out of all these?
At all the what's exactly.
And that's the second step to this.
Correct. Exactly. And I want to give a nod to that because I think it is very clear to me that most NPs are not trained on how to use this well to direct their lives.
I would agree.
And that's why we get we are a little scattered, even in this podcast where we bring in a whole bunch of different models and concepts and ideas, but that's because we're in rapport with them. But we're not all trained on how to use it to direct our lives. And it's a very powerful direction in life if we can harness that part of being in rapport with the next right step. So rapport with direction, not far-reaching direction necessarily, but the next direction. And that's a piece of it as well.
Leave in the comments if you can spot your rapport. Like Antonia talked about, this idea, rapport with direction, rapport with ideas, or is it rapport with experience and environment? Is it rapport with people and connections? Or is it rapport with projects, resource, and getting a result?
Yeah.
Like, do you have a sense of that? And actually, what I'd really like to hear is, do you have a complexity you can see? Mm-hmm. Can you actually see multiple parts of your cognition? Like, I can almost see in real time my ideation, my ideas, and my project side. I've got it probably in better balance now. It used to be like the project side tried to outpace everything and try to take the lead. And now I think I've got them in better balance, but I can almost see them coming in tandem together as energies in my life. I'd love to hear you, if you're listening or watching, speak to this. Can you notice this in your own life? Even more, could you spot it in somebody else? That's really what we do a lot of work with in our personality profiler training,
right?
Is to not let the Joels of the world trick you, right? If somebody's talking to me, I could try to trick them, not on purpose, but they might see me as using that extroverted thinking or effectiveness a lot and get a misread on what I'm actually doing, or that I'm really people focused. Oh, he must be extroverted feeling, harmony user.
Yeah.
But what's actually going on behind the surface, like underneath it all? Why am I doing this? And the blending of these two energies. So it's not just that you are an extrovert, right? Yeah. It's that you have extroverted parts of you that come forward in different situations and contexts. And being able to see those in those situations and contexts is actually what we're trying to do here, because that gives us a much bigger map of personality that we can actually use.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then there's one more thing that keeps coming up for me, and I'm just going to give a nod to it, not really talk about it that much. But the next thing is also in the Enneagram instincts, social, self-preservation, or sexual, 1-to-1. That's something we probably should talk a little bit about in a future episode as well. But if you, depending upon your preference for your instinct, you're a social, you're going to be way more of a people person than I am. I'm a 1-to-1 or a sexual. I really come alive when I'm in a 1-to-1 experience with somebody, not so much in a big group of people. And so I try to tailor my experiences to 1-to-1 because that's where I really bring the best of, or bring the most extroverted part of myself.
Even though you have extroverted feeling or harmony as your 10-year-old.
Correct.
Which would mean that you have a proclivity to rapport with people. Mm-hmm. You do that with one person, not a big group necessarily. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And so I usually it's really nice to talk to you in a group setting, or not talk to you, but if we're on stage, it's nice to have you there because I'm doing a lot of attuning to you. And then you do the social thing where you broadcast it out. So it's very helpful.
Yeah.
But I would say that somebody as an onlooker would say you're more social than I am or more extroverted than I am. I don't think that's necessarily true. It's just different circumstances or situations bring it out of us.
That's right.
And so that's another piece of it too. So there's a lot that goes into extraversion and introversion. And so if, just to kind of go back to the point of origin, if you're a person who has seen themselves as an introvert, and maybe it has been suggested to you that you might lead with an extroverted function, or you have extroverted preferences, just kind of hold that for a moment. Just kind of go, might I have a strong preference for rapport with something that might not be people. It might be something else.
Yeah. Thank you for listening this week. If you'd like more information, check out more things over at personalityhacker.com. Invite you over there. We're always releasing new programs, videos, content, things that can help you understand yourself, understand the people in your world, understand the situations you find yourself in and what to do about them. All these complexes you talked about, Antonia. How do I navigate my life well when there's no instruction manual? Well, we have some instruction manuals. We call them owner's manuals, one for every single one of the 16 personality types. And they really help you understand that cognitive map, that car model, so you can make better decisions in your life, set up your life well. Head over to personalityhacker.com and look up those car models, or they contain a car model, those owner's manuals for your personality type. I invite you to do that. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
And we will talk with you on the next Personality Hacker Podcast.